And you think Dubai has something for everybody?
I totally believe in that. Not only Dubai now, the UAE.
It's the UAE.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Because then you have a name, you have credibility in the market, and people will buy from you. The first thing I look for is the person hungry for money? You have a great attitude and maybe you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. I will work for you, I will mentor you, I will help you become a success. But if you got a negative attitude, you're out. Can't work with people like that.
Yes.
There's certain people that have a natural charisma, right?
Yes.
But that does not mean they're good salespeople.
A lot of millionaires are going to migrate in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I look at the fundamentals. I mean, again, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the future. Don't try to set up the business on your own. There's a lot of companies, a lot of professionals that would help you set up your business. Okay, and they will advise you on the legal entity they should structure, whether it should be a free zone or not a free zone. Now, I'm talking in general, any business that someone's is gonna come.
Welcome back to another episode of UAE Brews and Views with Shireen. Today with me, I have the honor of hosting a guest he's got over a decade of experience in development consulting, sales and marketing in this dynamic market of Dubai. He's one such person who will give us a lot of insight into this market, especially the real estate sector, especially how newcomers can thrive in this market, in this business world. And, what is interesting is also the kind of companies and the big companies he's worked with, the teams he's led, big teams, and a lot of experience by his side. So let's just welcome Mr. Tariq today on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. What a great introduction. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Actually, you don't need introduction. A lot of people in the UAE already know you. But I'd still like that for our audience, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. First of all, I'm just going to give you a bit of background about me, growing up in this part of the world. I grew up in the UAE many, many moons ago. In particular in Abu Dhabi. And then at the age of 14, I moved to the States for my education. I graduated in finance and banking, worked for about a year in New York, then got transferred to Abu Dhabi. And for 12 years, I worked as a wealth manager in private banking. I worked for Citibank. I worked for Standard Chartered Bank. I worked for Arab Bank as well. And then around 2004, and to be specific, March 2004, I started realizing that a lot of my clients, private banking clients, were closing their accounts and investing in real estate in Dubai. And I'm like, wait a minute, something is going on, and I wanted to be part of it. And that's how I started my journey in real estate. So I started way at the beginning, at the inception of the market, before there were laws, before there were regulations. And I've been in part of that beautiful industry ever since.
Wow, that's interesting. So is it also the development consulting and the project consulting came on this pathway?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was a natural progression for me, to get into that role. And the reason I decided to get into that role is that, for many years I was heading the sales for a lot of big developers, and I wanted to expand my knowledge. I wanted to understand. I wanted to get involved more in the project assembly, in the sales and marketing strategy, in the pricing, the launch strategy. And, Devmark was at the frontier of that at that time, and provided the perfect platform for me. So I got together with two of my partners, Sean and Richard, and it was a great synergy because they brought from their side the extensive experience in brokerage. And I brought from my side my extensive experience in working with developers. So yeah, it was a perfect match.
Yeah. So currently you're serving as the executive director of Devmark. If you could give us an insight of what Devmark is, what does it do, what all are you currently doing, because it's all over the news right now.
Okay, great. Well, I'd like to, well, in a nutshell, the way we operate, we are the region leading project sales and marketing. Okay, what does that mean? Is that we work with developers, okay, in helping them bring their project to market. And that would include a lot of steps. We call it journey to sale. Okay, sometimes we work with developers who are new to the market and want to acquire a plot of land, and we will help them with that. Developers that want to develop a project or a community, we provide them with the sales and marketing strategy. We help them take the project to market, and we help them sell the project.
Okay. So it's like an end-to-end solution that you do for development projects.
Exactly.
So in terms, when we talk about developers coming in this market, I see a lot of big names that are already there, established ones, and then there are new ones that are coming up. What is the USP for the small ones to thrive in this market? Because there's a lot of competition.
I love this question because this is a subject that's very close to my heart, and I talk about it a lot. For a developer coming into the market, new developers, sometimes from other countries, right? It is important, first of all, that they need to differentiate themselves from the rest, right? What is their value proposition? Okay, what value are they adding in their project or in their community? Okay. The other thing is that the importance of them to deliver what they promise. Okay. Will they actually build, and will they deliver what they promise on their fancy marketing collateral and what their salespeople are promising? That's very important for them. And of course, the third part, the third unique selling proposition that they have is the customer service. Customer service is very important. The after sales service. After signing the contract and signing on the dotted line, what kind of journey does the customer have until they hand over of their property, and even after that. So that's very important.
So even the maintenance part and of the building.
Absolutely. That's even very, very crucial to them, because then you have a name, you have credibility in the market, and people will buy from you.
Yes. And let's say I'm talking from a perspective of a developer who's sitting outside UAE as of now and wants to establish a development company in Dubai. In a nutshell, what is the roadmap for that person?
Well, first of all, of course, they have to come to Dubai, the UAE. They have to register the company. Once they register the company and get all the approvals and the licensing and the paperwork done, they have to acquire a land. If it's a ambitious developer that want to build their land bank, then they'll have to identify different areas where they want to buy the property. They of course have to have a budget, what they want to invest, what do they want to really achieve. Okay, what kind of development they want to be involved in. Once this is done, then they come to us, and we will be able to help them with all of these things. So the next step would be the actual property that they're going to develop, right? Once this is done and all the blueprints are completed, the next step is actually registering the project and receiving all the approvals from the Dubai Land Department. And then, of course, the last step would be obtaining the escrow account, which is very important to the development, and they cannot launch the project without it. Yes. And then taking the project to market.
Yeah, you talk about escrow account. That's really interesting because a lot of people are not aware of this concept outside UAE. But what happens here in the escrow account is for the particular project, the people will give the money in that escrow, and only it's the developer can only take on basis of some construction, in lieu of some construction. Am I right?
100%. The whole
investors' money is always safeguarded.
Of course. I mean, the idea, the basic principle of an escrow account, which is a trust account, is that to protect the money of the investors, right? So the developer can only pull out a certain amount, okay, to pay in general to pay for the construction, because they want to protect the investor, the buyer. They don't want the developer for whatever reason mismanage the money.
Yes.
Using a better word.
Yeah. I was recently actually watching an interview of Mr. Ankur Agarwal, the BMW development owner. He's an Indian guy. BMW Development's working with a partner, 𝐒𝐩𝐿 Bro. I think you already must be knowing about them. He in his interview was saying that it is much profitable to be a developer in this market than any other market as of now, because he said that there's a lot of that. He gave a table of how the developers earn money, like how the edge is there. If you could just highlight how developers actually make money, in simplified terms.
Yeah, in a very simple way.
Yes.
Okay, is that there is a construction cost, there is the cost of the land, and then of course there's the cost of sales. Okay, anything above that is a profit for the developer. Okay, and this is how they make the money. That's why it is very important that they price the project properly. That's why, again, this is something that we do, and this is our pricing strategy. You want to make sure that you don't price yourself out of the market. You want to make sure that your prices add value. Okay, but at the same time, you want to make sure that there is a profit margin for you as a developer. So anything above your cost, which in brief involves the land acquisition, the cost of land, the cost of construction, the cost of sales. This is the commission that you pay for third parties. Okay, then anything above that would be your profit. And as the gentleman said correctly, in Dubai and in the UAE, the profit margins are compared to other places in the world are pretty attractive. That's why you see a lot of influx of developers coming from different parts of the world, and they want to get into the market. They want to get a share of the market.
Yeah. And you think Dubai has something for everybody?
I totally believe in that. Not only Dubai now, the UAE.
Yes, the UAE.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. And we see the diversity right now in the different projects that are coming to market. We see, I wouldn't call it budget. I don't like to call it budget. I call budget or affordable residence. I like to call it entry level. You have that. You have the mid range. You have the high range. You have the ultra luxury. So yes, there is a lot of variety for people that want to buy into Dubai.
And having said that, there's a lot of branded residencies coming in. I see a lot of developers launching with branded residency. What's the edge of getting a branded residency? How is it more fruitful? And because it happens all the time in Dubai only, I don't see it much in other parts of the world.
To answer this question, you need a whole new segment. It is something that I specialize in. Okay. And really, to summarize it, why branded residence?
Yes.
Why people are going into branded residence? First of all, the branded residences around the world appreciate at a higher rate than even luxury residences. Okay. Especially what we refer to as hospitality brands, not fashion brands or automotive brands, but in general, branded residences are, is a category of residences that appreciate, first of all, faster and a higher rate than normal residences. The other thing that a lot of developers or people tend to value branded residence compared to even luxury residences is the fact that with a brand, you get the additional seal of approval or quality, because the brand have to protect the brand integrity. They have to protect the reputation of the brand.
Yes.
So you get that extra layer of due diligence coming from the brand, working closely together with the developer, okay, to basically execute the project and also manage the project. So when you look at a normal residence, you'll have a nice pool, you'll have nice facilities. But if you're looking at a branded residence, like a hospitality brand, for example, let's say Marriott is going to ensure that that's not just any regular pool or gym or whatever. It's going to be up to that brand standards, and it's going to be managed up to that standard.
So when we talk about brands like Marriott coming in Dubai for branded residency, what is the part that they manage? They manage the maintenance, or it's the entire theme of the building? Because like Paramount, I saw Devmark Paramount.
Yes.
So
yes.
The whole theme is
Yes.
like a Paramount house. So what exactly
in
all they do?
normally, yeah, of course it depends on the agreement, but normally if you have a hospitality brand, and I emphasize again on the hospitality brand, they will manage. So they will manage the property after the handover, and normally what they do is that you have a brand manager, from the brand itself, working closely with the facility manager in order to manage the entire building and ensure that the staff are well trained and provide that standard according to the brand.
Okay. And if we talk about the development cycle, the entire project from ideation to the final execution to the final building, how much time it usually takes in your experience?
It honestly depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah.
You cannot really give it a certain time frame, but I can tell you what the factors are.
Yes.
It depends on the what are you building? Are you building 100 units? Are you building a community? How long the design stage takes. So some project would take 2 years, 3 years, some maybe take 4 years from the time they go to market until the community or the building is handed over. It really depends.
Okay. And in your opinion, for a newcomer coming to the Dubai or UAE market as such, what is your advice? Usually lot of units, like or 3-floor, 4-floor building, G+5, G+4, like what's your opinion?
There isn't, it depends on what they want to achieve, and it depends of course on their budget. It has to do with where are you buying and
Location.
Yeah, exactly. Some locations will support that kind of property, and this is the thing that we advise them is like, okay, what do you want? What do you want to price it for? How much do you want to sell it for? Because that will have and that will dictate, okay, what advice and direction we finally take in terms of the end product. But it depends from what they want, the area, depends on what they want to be associated with. For example, some developers want to have a legacy a project. They want a project that is ultra luxury. They want a grand tower, and we respect that and we appreciate that, and we advise them accordingly. Some want to have maybe a small inventory. They want to sell it, and they want to sell it fast and then move to the next project and the third project. So we work with all of these variations, and it depends really on the developer. What do they want to achieve? Are they happy coming up with a building that is 420 units and sell it over a period of a year and a half, or they want to come up with 100 units, sell and move to the next project?
Okay, so it depends how aggressive and the budget, etc., all of that for the developer.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of UAE, another thing that I would like your opinion on is how bullish you are about Ras Al Khaimah. Because I see so many people, they talk about Dubai in per se, but they also say that now Ras Al Khaimah is because of the casino, of course, and other reasons as well. Is it booming? Are you still, how convinced are you with that?
I like the way you phrased the question. Okay, in my opinion,
yes.
I am. I mean, if you ask me to answer it in short, I am bullish about it, but not only for one reason. Okay, not only for the reason of the casino, because I don't believe that this is the only reason where you have to be bullish about a real estate market. I think Ras Al Khaimah is very progressive. Ras Al Khaimah has a great potential and future. They have a lot of plans to develop Ras Al Khaimah. They've done great so far in terms of attracting tourism. They also have great plans to attract businesses as well. So yes, it is. I mean, Ras Al Khaimah is, you can look at it as an alternative to people that want to benefit from being within proximity to Dubai, but probably not necessarily live in Dubai. So to me, yes, I am bullish about Ras Al Khaimah.
Okay. And when it comes to sales and marketing perspective, that your career has been so much about sales and marketing as well, working with all the big names in the industry. What is the top 3 things for a salesperson to have, as per you? Because I think UAE is so much about sales and marketing,
Yeah.
and people who
What
want
do
to
I
come
look
in.
for?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you look for?
What
yes,
do I look for?
that
Okay,
better
great.
fit.
I mean, after 30 years of hiring, onboarding, training, coaching, mentoring, I think I can answer that question with some degree of certainty or accuracy. The first thing I look for is the person hungry for money? Now, a lot of people laugh at this, say, well, everybody's hungry for money. I say, no, I'm sorry. Let me correct you here. There's a difference between someone who's hungry for money and someone who likes money. Now, the person that is hungry for money is a person that every activity that they do during the day will either directly or indirectly contribute to them making money, right? They are internally motivated versus externally motivated. What does that mean? They don't wait for someone to motivate them to go to work and make money. So that's the first thing I look for. The second thing is attitude. You have a great attitude and maybe you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. I will work for you. I will mentor you. I will help you become a success. But if you've got a negative attitude, you're out. Can't work with people like that.
Yes.
And the third thing is a word called coachability, that you're coachable. And what does that mean? Your ability to learn, but not only that, no matter how successful you are, what kind of experience you have, you are still open for, I wouldn't say criticism, but open to learn, and then take that knowledge and apply it to your daily sales process. These are the three things that I look for in a candidate or in a salesperson.
Nice. Actually, these three things now in hindsight, when I think, it's actually so true that you need these three things. I also feel sales is such an inborn skill. You can teach somebody to sell,
Yes,
but that's still that I would say enthusiasm comes from within.
Yeah, there's a myth about the born salespeople, and I've talked about it a lot. I've written articles about it before, and I like to debunk the myth. There's no such thing as a born salesperson. Okay. Everything about sales can be taught, but like you said, there are certain characters. There's certain people that have a natural charisma, right?
Yes.
But that does not mean they're good salespeople. Okay, I mean they have the advantage, but it doesn't mean that they're going to turn to be a good salespeople. But yes, I mean you have certain characters or personalities that are not comfortable being in sales, and these are people that normally don't apply for sales jobs or don't do that well in sales, because it's all about dealing with people, interacting with people, patient, handling objections. It's an interesting career to have.
Yes, and Dubai is so much. UAE is so much about this.
It is. That's so true. That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. When you compare the life, I was living in Canada, so when you compare the life there and compared to here, it's so much more. Everybody is like a go-getter. The whole ecosystem works in a manner that everybody wants to achieve something. It's like you get up and you're working in that ecosystem where everybody's just wanting to achieve something or the other.
Oh, it's looking back at what Dubai was before, like maybe 30 years ago, and looking at how it is right now, you're 100% right. I mean, here you're expected to answer your phone 24 hours, even on the weekends, because the city doesn't sleep, business doesn't sleep, and everybody wants to make money, and sure, why not?
Yes. So in terms of business environment of the UAE, you worked with newcomers in the business industry, as well as some old veterans as well. What do you think, how conducive is UAE in the business environment?
How can I, sorry, can you
how
repeat
conducive, like how...
conducive, of course.
Yes.
I would say probably one of the top in the world, and for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, if you look at the government is constantly, modifying the laws, changing the laws to welcome people here. You look at the visas, the golden visa, now there's the blue visa. The environment is very conducive to businesses from all sizes. There is a misbelief that Dubai is only, open for big companies and millionaires and you have to have a massive budget, but that's not the case. Dubai has a lot of free zones that work as an incubator for small businesses.
Yes.
A lot of people would remember that, for example, Internet City, Media City, 24 years ago, was established in 2000, was an incubator for small businesses and startups. Yes, they were also there to attract the big boys like Google and Microsoft
Yes.
and Oracle, exactly.
Oracle, yes.
But there was a lot of startups up, and you have a lot of free zones like that.
Yes.
We started as a small business, and we're thriving. Absolutely, Dubai is a great place. And the other thing is that you see a lot of homegrown brands that started here, and now they are going all around the world, which is great. You get startups that are now being funded internationally.
Yeah. Startup ecosystem is being invested a lot by the government itself. Now, when you read the vision plans, it's all about startups growing, and especially what they are investing with the AI. Now, because the competition is much, so people are kind of little scared about stepping into the market. Like, that's the question we get all the time, is that, there's a lot of competition. How are we going to... What is our edge going to be in a particular business industry?
I don't think it's going to be the technology driven. I think it's more of how, it's about what are you offering to the market and the value that you're giving there.
Okay.
There will be competition, but you can stand out from the competition by your value proposition.
And in your experience, what are the factors that will help small businesses to thrive in UAE now?
Well, the first thing would be their value proposition. What are they bringing into the market? And I mentioned that earlier. If I take an example of a developer, right? When they come to the market, is the project going to be another cookie cutter kind of project? Is it copy and paste, or are you bringing something new? And then and that would apply to other businesses. What innovation are you bringing in? What new service are you bringing in? What value are you bringing in? How are you going to stand out? And you stand out by providing good value, providing excellent customer service, because I see a lot of businesses, sometimes they have a grand idea, they do good, they have a poetic vision, mission statement, but then they lose focus of the client. I think the competitive edge for new businesses coming in is to come and say, listen, we want to have a great customer service. We want our customer to have a great customer journey, and we want to provide value. And you see it in a lot of businesses that come to Dubai, in different sectors. Ones that really provide value, and when I say value, you're getting a good quality, but you're not overpriced. Okay, or in other way, you're getting poor value, but it's also still expensive. And you see that sometimes businesses don't really price the product properly. You go to somewhere and it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, why should I be paying that much money? And there's nothing special about what you're offering me. So for businesses, and I can appreciate that they come into a place like Dubai and they see that there's a lot of competition and they don't know how they're going to compete. But you know what? You stick to the basics. You provide a good product at a good price with a good service, and you're going to stand out.
Yes. That's an interesting point. And when it comes to these the industry that you have experienced, especially, what are the 3-4 sectors that you could say, or business opportunities for people in this industry? Like I see a lot of people are focusing on sustainability. So is there something that can, work in collateral?
Sustainability is definitely a good point. Why? Because that's the only way to go. And another thing is that when you have an element of sustainability in your community, on your project, again, you're differentiating yourself from the rest of the rest of the crowd, and you will have. I think the direction right now within the developers that they want to differentiate who they are from, and therefore their buildings or their communities will have to have that element of sustainability. And clients are also now more educated and they ask for these things. Just to give you an example, maybe 4 years ago, nobody would ask me if the building has an EV charging station. Now, everybody assumes that that's part of the whole the building, and then as we move forward, consumers will start demanding different stuff. They're demanding technologies that will support that as well. So I believe that this is the way forward.
I was actually talking to one of the brokers the other day during my podcast, and he happened to tell me that when some recession or something hits Dubai or UAE per se, then a lot of small buildings and small developers will be hit compared to the big ones and compared to the communities, people who are giving communities rather than versus the standalone buildings. So is it true, or do you believe in that?
No.
Or
I mean,
do you have a viewpoint on
with
this?
all due respect to that person, I mean, he might have a crystal ball, and
Yes.
I mean, it's all about if you're looking at as a developer, as a business, okay, it depends on how they funded. It depends on the project. You can't just generalize that small versus big developer. And what's the distinction between what is
standalone versus a community? No.
I honestly don't see how if there is a market, let's not call it a crash or anything like that.
Yes.
Let's call it not even a market correction, because I don't believe that this is going to happen. Let's say certain segment of the market is going to probably cool down a little
Stabilize,
bit. Okay,
yeah.
and when it does, it doesn't matter whether you are part of the community or you are part of a building, but probably maybe what he was referring to or she's referring to is what type of property, like the 1 bed versus the 2 bed versus the 3 bed.
Yes.
Or the ultra luxury versus the mid range. It's all speculation. You don't know which part is going to cool down first. But I believe that the market is still healthy and the fundamentals are pretty strong.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I was going through one of the articles, and it says ultra luxury still is a shortfall in UAE. Like there's still, there's lacking. No, it's lacking the number of units was compared to the demand.
Yes, it is.
The supply is less for the ultra luxury. Wow. Even though you see, it feels like it's everywhere. It's just not.
I'm trying to use a diplomatic word for that. The interesting thing about reading a lot of articles and people's opinion is that we know what is the supply. You can quantify the supply. You know the number of units that are going to be built. You know the numbers of units that are going to be handed over. But you don't know what's the demand. You can't, how do you measure the demand? You only know people that come in there to buy the property. But how do you know that there's probably another maybe 50 millionaires waiting to come to Dubai and buy ultra luxury product?
Yeah, they are actually. It's again a Knight Frank report that says that a lot of millionaires are going to migrate in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I look at the fundamentals. I mean, again, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the future. And I've learned that a long time ago. I don't give any predictions. I don't say what is going to happen. All what I like to do is look at the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are promising. The fundamentals are still strong, and that would support the market. Now, what segment it is, I mean, that, as I said, it's very difficult to tell.
So before we sign off today's show, I'd like you to give some insight and maybe your viewpoint. Anybody who's coming to UAE, anybody living in the UAE and wanting to enter the real estate industry, what are your tips for that person?
It depends
to succeed.
It depends. They want to enter the industry as a company. They want to become a developer. They want to become a broker. They want to become a salesperson. It really depends. What do they want to do?
Let's say it's a new startup.
I would say that what I'm going to say right now will apply to all businesses. Okay. First of all, do your homework. Understand the market. Okay, but don't do it remotely, or don't rely on a third party to do that study for you. Come down, stay a couple of weeks, talk to people, network, tell them what you're planning to do, get a bit of insight, drive around, because that's the best way that you can get a
look and feel of
it, and the proper feedback.
Yes.
Once this is done, then the next step is that you've decided that, yeah, I want to enter the market in whatever form or shape, okay, get the proper help. Don't try to set up the business on your own. There's a lot of companies, a lot of professionals that would help you set up your business, okay, and they will advise you on the legal entity that you should that they should structure, whether it should be a free zone or not a free zone. Now I'm talking in general, any business that someone's is gonna come. And the other thing is that it is important that you have the proper legal advice. I see a lot of startups or people or individual coming, setting up the business. They want to cut costs on, I don't need a lawyer right now, but then something happens and then they
I see that all the time.
Yeah, so exactly, you know what I'm saying? So I think the best thing to do is for you to, have professionals around you, explain to you the environment, explain to you the legality of what you're trying to set up. And that to me, that would be a sound advice for anyone coming to the UAE.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Pleasure.
Tariq. Thank you for
much.
all your insight, and everybody who's wanting to get in touch with him or want to, just understand a bit more about his background or just want to be in touch with him, then the link is in the description on my YouTube channel. Do like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much for watching.